All right, so we are live again. This is Biker Babble, where we talk about bikes, everything about bikes, off bikes, on bikes, around bikes, and things like that. So the first episode's already done very successfully, huge hit, massive success, crowds gathering all around Shane's house, kind of pleading for him to do more. So that's why we had to do the
No,
second episode very quickly.
no crowds.
So no crowds right now.
Social distancing.
Although in Gurgaon, when the alcohol shops opened, it must have been a different story. Anyway,
Yeah.
so everyone knows Shane. Everyone knows me. I'm the newbie that has graduated to intermediate stage, self-declared of riding, and Shane is the expert rider. And welcoming to our show for the first time, a friend, professional acquaintance, Vivek, whose only problem is that he owns a tiger instead of an African twin. That's the only thing I can hold against him.
So now we've got two tiger owners versus one A-twin owner.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's enough. I can take you on, no problem. But anyway, so the thing is, so Vivek is, I think from a motorcycling, if you start motorcycling, the first thing obviously that you look at is the motorcycle. But when you're eager to ride it, then they don't tell you anything before you buy the motorcycle because it's expensive, right? But then you buy the motorcycle, and then the first thing they'll upsell you at the dealership is like, "Oh, sir, by the way, you need a crash guard for this, right? And so you need to shell out a little bit of money." So you do all that. Then you put on a crash guard, you put some chrome on or whatever it is that people like. Harley guys like chrome, like motorcycle guys like whatever carbon or whatever stickers and stuff like that. And then you get out of the out of the dealership, and the guy's like, "Oh, by the way, it's a super bike. It's kind of dangerous. You use protection." So that's where Vivek comes in, and that's the subject of our second episode. It's about using protection all the time. Essentially, when you start riding, you kind of at least this was my experience. I had a patchy understanding of what kind of protection you need, right? So everybody, helmet, I think pretty much everybody knows you need a good one. But there's like price ranges. Then you don't know what the price range is for. Some of it is, priced for comfort, some of it for safety. Then there's so much confusing information. So how do you go about making up your mind about what you need to spend on a motorcycle helmet? How do you do that? Like, any advice for anybody who's joining the motorcycling community?
Yeah,
What do you do?
as far as protection goes, there's one rule, and that rule applies most of all to a helmet, which is you buy the helmet that you can, the most expensive helmet that you can afford, which is like if you have
Right.
like $100 to spend on your gear, you spend like $80 on it, and the rest on your gloves and your boots and all.
So we lost Vivek there. Vivek's back here.
Yeah,
So just
sorry.
to explain very quickly to people that Vivek runs, with other partners. He runs a place called, it's an institution. I won't call it a shop. It's also a shop, but a place called Lazy Ass Bikers. And they distribute motorcycling gear throughout the country. They import some very well-known brands and stuff like that. And for me, it's a feast because they also have great coffee. So I go in there just for the coffee sometimes. But thanks to that, I end up blowing a bunch of money that I don't need to blow up. But it's like a candy store for motorcyclists because it's got all these fantastic helmets with visors, without visors, with different brands. There's jackets, and by the way, I haven't seen a store like that in India at least. I've seen some pretty good stores in Bangalore. There's the Dynasty store and all that, but like a multi-brand store, it's like really fun, and it's like pretty large. So it gives me this supermarket market experience in a motorcycling store. But so Vivek, you were just saying it's very confusing when you come in and you want to buy gear, because initially when I started, it was very very patchy information. I knew that you had to get a good helmet. But then after that, beyond that, I didn't know much. I was like, okay, you should wear a jacket. Then information started coming at me. What should the fit be like? What kind of armor it should have? I started seeing strange things like this, right? Which were like, I was like, what is this? And so I was like, this is important, and then it'll protect your spine, protect your skull, it's going to protect your elbow. So it was quite overwhelming in the beginning. And it's so funny because I did my first long ride on the Kawasaki Versys. I wore the jacket and everything. I was covered on top, but I was wearing jeans below. So, and then later, I wouldn't do that today at all. So for somebody who's just coming in, very in a nutshell, very quickly,
Yeah.
like Shane was saying, you buy the best helmet you can afford. Like if you had to quickly give advice in the initial stage, you have let's say you have 45 seconds with somebody. What advice would you give him about gear?
Yeah. So, like I was saying, the first thing you should buy is a good helmet, the best helmet you can afford. That's the first thing. Second thing is you protect your feet. You buy the best boots because I personally know somebody who had a motorcycle accident when he was young, when he was in his 20s, and he had. I mean, it was terrible, and he's in his 60s now, and he's still he's still having surgeries for it 40 years later, whatever.
Wow,
So yeah,
that's terrible.
really bad. I mean, really, really bad. So your feet and your head are head is number one, feet is number two. After that, you go for your jacket and your knees. And I'm sure Vivek will have better
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah,
So
I'm
Vivek,
sorry. There's something wrong with my connection. So let's see. I've just gotten to my phone. Hopefully, this holds better. Quickly, if I could just bifurcate protection into two basic types, I would say one is the crash protection, which means as soon as you crash, the impact that you're going to have against a hard surface, either a curb or the road or something like that, that is going to take some toll on it's something hard that's hitting you, right? So that's the first impact protection. Second is the abrasion protection. Let's assume you're traveling at 60 kilometers an hour and you go down, and you're going to slide from the time that you're going to go from 60 to 0 along with your bike, or let's assume the bike is when you're still moving at the speed of 60 when you go down. So by the time you come to 0, it's still going to be 3 or 4 seconds. So the time that is required to come to a halt, there's going to be abrasion. Your denims or your shoes, your regular kids are not going to take that kind of a slide. So you need something that's going to slide well, that's not going to completely wear out in those 4 seconds. Then protection also against the climatic conditions. So if you're wearing something that's really hardcore and really heavy, and given Bombay summers, you're going to be easily at around 35 to 40 degrees Celsius, and you're going to cook inside, which means that kind of protection is of no point if you're really sweating you become really hot and you can't concentrate. So then that becomes again counterproductive. So with all these factors put together is something I would say it's safety and comfort put together is what you go in for.
right. So the thing is that, information comes patchily. So what would you advise? I'd like, basically, if I had to do all of this all over again, I would say that, go out there, research a lot and look at. So I would, I'll put it up later, if I can't do it live, but later I'll put up a little diagram. I did it to show my friends who are non-bikers how funny it was, that how much you have to wear, how much gear you have to wear when you get on a bike. And so it was basically the helmet. It was, I had a, jacket on with shoulder, elbow, spine guard. Ideally you can have chest guards, but okay, I wasn't wearing those. Then you have jeans, abrasion resistant jeans or trousers, and hip guards that had knee guards, and then I had like boots which had the anti-twist kind of technology or whatever it is, and all the rest of it. So you're kind of covered head to toe, and basically there's not an inch of skin showing. So at least these basics, like Vivek explained, I would recommend people go on the internet and research every piece and figure out what they need to buy, because the fitting of everything, like there's a whole, it's not that simple. So before you start riding, plan for at least a week, or I would say even 10 days before you actually start riding, that kind of order this gear, make sure you get the right sizes, all of that stuff.
So Jajit, I would just like to add a small bit over here. Generally, we get so much into the flow of buying the best motorcycle that our money can stretch, and we sometimes even go overboard of up to around 15 to 20% in buying a motorcycle, that we absolutely leave no gap for buying bike protection or for buying your self protection.
Right.
That's when we start stinging out on bike protection, where we go for literally locally fabricated stuff, and for yourself we go for the cheapest protection that is available, which in fact in the longer run is going to be more detrimental than of any use.
Yeah, I agree. But here there's a question here that I want to ask in terms of fitting, right? Shane, I mean, are there any differences? Because I know that you do a lot of off-road riding, and so does, I mean, Vivek's also interested. I think he's, but leading these rides, what's the particular things that you have to take care of when you're doing off-road riding, or you're going off into place, off the tarmac, because the tarmac has a different, if the fall on tarmac has very different implications compared to if you fall off-road where there are rocks and there can be like all kinds of things. And of course, the danger is much higher when you're off-road, especially when you're new, of taking a spill, even a light one. And by the way, even a light spill can be very, very dangerous, right? I mean, we all know. I know this now, but newbies very frequently don't understand that even just a 10, 20 kilometer speed can be dangerous if you fall at the wrong angle and if you're not wearing protection. So what are some of the particular things that you have to take care of?
Basically, off-road, you start from the bottom up. Basically, your boots have to be off-road boots, which are meant for off-road, which are 4 buckles. They're long, they're very tall boots, nearly up to your knees, and they're very stiff, so you can't really walk in them. But they don't bend. They don't. So they also have steel toes, steel shank. So if you smash into a rock off-road, it doesn't break your leg or break your toes. It doesn't twist. If you fall, if the bike falls on top of you, it will not crush your boots, crush your feet, because they are crush-proof.
Yeah,
so the boots are very important. Above that, you should have not knee guards, but knee braces. Knee guards are okay, which are just for impact, but a knee brace is something which protects you from impact as well as from bending forces, like bending unnatural bends, like to the left or this way.
So the ACL tear, I mean, this is the common injury. So
Correct.
Protect you from an ACL tear, which can happen very quickly. People don't realize. In fact, I recently got them from Vivek, and the thing was that I was thinking of kind of looking at even wearing them when you're kind of on the road, because if you suddenly our roads are pretty potholed and quite terrible. So if you have to suddenly stop somewhere, it's uneven ground. I mean, actually, when you're on these very heavy bikes, some people recommend that you wear them all the time. They're relatively comfortable. I think, Vivek, you also wear knee braces when you're kind of riding in general, right? Is that correct?
Well, I wear knee braces whenever I'm going outside city limits.
Right.
So also one thing that I look into protection is it should not be so cumbersome that because of the inconvenience, you don't end up wearing it at all. So I ideally like to have protection, which for sure as a mandate, I will wear.
Right.
Hence, yes, knee brace every time that I'm going outside city limits or anything where I'm touching a trail, then definitely the knee braces are on.
So I want to talk about this thing. Okay, you said you wear it when when you're going out of town, but there's this theory which is called, which is very cumbersome, by the way. So sometimes I take the bike out just to the petrol pump, right? And I have to say that I've become fairly good about it, because I also ride bicycles, and once I took a spill on a bicycle, and it was like obviously going at 20 kilometers, whatever it was. But the thing is, because of the skin getting scraped, like even on a bicycle fall, and how badly that hurts and how dangerous it can be if it's slightly deeper, I realized, hey, anything can happen in India. We know how the traffic is and what. So even going for a short distance, I tend to put on everything, and perhaps not the what are they called, what we just spoke about, the braces. Perhaps not the braces, but I'll have knee guards in my jeans, in the Asian jeans. I'll have a jacket. I'll have obviously the helmet, and even sometimes. So I wear boots, and I have not ankle length, not knee length boots, but ankle length boots that I'll wear, and that's something that the principle is called, as we all know, it's called all the gear, all the time.
All the gear, all the time.
How much do you believe in that theory? I want to ask both of you. How much do you believe in that theory?
I'm all the gear all the time, because I don't really ride every day. I'm not going from here to there and then stopping for half an hour, doing some work and then going somewhere else. So it's not a daily ride for me. It's not a daily. It's not a work thing. So when I go out to ride for at least an hour, 2 hours, then stop and then come back, or I'm going for a long ride for many days. So I always, even when I go to like get my bike service or go to the shop to get it serviced, I'll wear my gear, which is 9 kilometers from here. But I'll wear all my gear, like everything, always,
Right.
because it doesn't really bother me too much, and it'll save me if I fall. I've had one fall where on my previous bike where a car hit me just on my rear wheel, T-boned me
Wow.
like this, and because of
Wow.
my gear, I got not a scratch, nothing, not a scratch.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I hear that a lot. I mean, there's a lot of falls that in your, in your line of work, Shane. So just to let everybody know, Shane now leads adventure rides and does rides for branded events with Honda, BMW, and so on. And so he obviously sees a lot of newbies kind of fall and break their
Yeah.
ankles and toes and stuff like that. And so
Yes.
in your line of
Every
work,
ride, every ride I've been on to, like Spiti, for example, last 2 times, last 3 times, one person at least has broken his ankle or his foot, some small bone in his foot or his ankle, because they're not wearing the correct boots, basically.
oh wow, so that's
Yeah,
quite
just
that's
because of the boots.
so it's not
So
a marketing gimmick. It's not just
because-
Vivek being a great salesman, right? This is actually true. Like good gear matters, right? And so
Absolutely.
this is sometimes as a biker, sometimes you tend to think that this is all being oversold. I mean, I know that I sometimes question it, saying how can it be like, because I mean I've heard of people also wearing gear and still getting injured, right?
Yeah.
And like maybe this is just marketing stuff, but I mean I have to tell you I feel much safer when I'm riding with gear, because you kind of the impact points when you fall off a two-wheeler, right? You know where the impact points are, and to have something protecting you there is, and fortunately I've not had to test it, but we've all known people who had like pretty bad falls and they've kind of come out of it fairly all right. But it shouldn't give you a false sense of security, because at the end of the day, even with all this gear, you can get injured, right? But having said that, I think if you're riding fairly safely and within your limits in India, it's still dangerous because somebody else can knock you over. So keeping that in mind, it's very, very important to wear all the gear all the time. But so Vivek, you haven't answered. I mean, how often
So I completely agree with you. All the gear, all the time. When I said that in city limits, I don't wear is what I don't wear is the knee brace. But other
Right.
than that, I will always have a helmet, jacket, gloves, and riding boots on always, and riding denims or some kind of a stopgap arrangement.
Right.
But these 4 things I will always have on, however short the hop is. Especially more because when I'm going out on a ride, I'm completely prepared. It's only the ride that I'm doing. When I'm going to office, I have got 10 things. There's something on my mind, and there are people crossing. The density of traffic is way more when you're within the city limits rather than when you are out on the highway. So
Right.
I completely agree with you all the gear all the time.
Yeah, super. So now, gear is great. So we've established that, but and that's kind of, this was the thrust of the entire episode. But there are 2 or 3 things. One is all this gear seems to be designed in some cold Scandinavian countries, and then we live in India. I know there's gear designed for warm countries, but even that is, it's difficult. Like especially in Bombay where it's humid, and India is obviously warm through most of the year. It's really difficult it's very demotivating actually to put on all that gear. It takes me a long time. Sometimes if you're sweating, the gloves take like a very long time to put on. So is there any, what's the best way of kind of addressing this issue? I mean, of course, don't say don't ride in the heat. But
No, not at all. So what I've seen is whenever a rider who comes in for the first time to buy gear, so he wants to buy a jacket or pants which is all season. So one set which will work in the rains in the winter and everything. So what happens when you buy something that's going to do everything is it's not going to do anything to the limit. So it's not going to do anything perfect. It's going to be a jack of all trades, master of none.
Right.
So when you go in for an all seasons jacket, which is like a complete textile with layers, fair enough, you can remove the layers, but there's a limit to the breathability. And when you try to go at a price point, the breathability will be that much more lesser because it's that much more expensive to make those many panels which open up.
Right.
Again, typically the West Coast, we have summers nearly for 9-10 months, other than the 2 months of winter, out of which there are 15 days of anything that's below 20 to 23 degrees. We are always in that 30 to 38 range, even during our monsoons. So hence, I think going for a mesh or a very well ventilated jacket, the best of what you can afford, is the way to go with it. When you're speaking of rain, I always prefer a rain over than a rain liner inside, because let's assume it's fairly warm and suddenly there's an overcast and it starts raining. For you to stop your bike, remove the liner from your bag, put the liner inside your jacket, zip it up, and then wear the jacket back, it's at least a good 5 to 7 minutes process. You're drenched by then. So again, for our kind of a weather, I think a rain over and a winter base layer works the best.
So Shane, I want to ask you this as a user, as an expert rider user. What's the gear that you need to have? What's in your closet, right?
So basically, only in the dead of winter do I wear my winter jacket and pants. Only in the dead, like in last week of December and first 3 weeks of Jan, would I wear my. And if I was going to the hills, would I wear my full? Otherwise, what I wear, even going to the hills, like to Spiti and all in December, and even in October, is just like he said, like Vivek said, just fully mesh, maybe jeans with padding, all the correct Kevlar padding, and the mesh jacket, and basically that takes care of everything except the early mornings and late evenings, where I put on a what's it called, a wind cheater kind of a things that you can buy in trekking stores, like
Right.
like in Decathlon.
So it's on top of the gear.
Yeah, it's like a stretch material. It's like a wind protection kind of a thing.
Right.
So I wear that on top. Below that is my mesh jacket. Below that is, maybe if it's really cold, then I'd wear like a very thin puffer jacket. And below that would be my, next to my skin, my whatever I'm wearing.
What's the basic gear that you do? So you're saying layering is the answer. That's what Vivek just said.
Absolutely,
So
definitely.
you layer up. Then it becomes a little difficult, because then, if it starts raining, then you have to zip up. But if it stops raining, it gets too
Not difficult
warm.
at all. Not difficult at all. Not difficult at all. It's very. You plan how you pack. I keep my rain gear in a back knapsack, or just on the back of my bike. That's your
Right.
rain gear. I keep my warm gloves as well as my wind cheaper, also very easily accessible. Other than that, you really don't need anything. If it really gets cold, then you put on your rain gear over your pants, over everything. You put on your rain gear, because the rain gear is mostly, unless it's Gore-Tex, is not breathable.
Right.
It really keeps you like warm, really warm.
Right.
And
So
if you're
so you have to, just like regular clothing, you have to dress for the landscape also at some level, right? The Dainese, the Gore-Tex would be really useful if you're going to a cold, wet place. It would give you a lot of comfort. And so I guess the clothing is not just protection, it's also relevant to the landscape that you are in. But at some level, is there any revolutionary thing, Vivek? This is a question for you. Is there anything revolutionary that can get Indians out more often? Because very often I've cancelled the ride just because the weather's been too warm. How do we deal with that?
Well, the best thing that you can do is you can go for a quick base layer, which is generally going to put your sweat out on that second layer. So evaporation causes cooling, and you're going to cool slightly better. Or you can have these material which you actually soak in water, wear it on, and it's going to keep on cooling you better. One thing, and I cannot stress enough on this point, is always carry a hydro pack. I have seen so many people not carrying a hydro pack, saying that I'll carry a bottle, but you do not end up drinking that much water with a bottle because
Yeah.
with the bottle you need to stop, you need to get out of the bag, open.
Yeah.
You're not going to have more than half a liter.
And you
Same
can't
thing with a hydro pack.
you can't carry enough. Right? I mean, you can carry
Correct.
2 bottles or something like that in your tank bag, and it's like, that's it. And so that's half a liter. You need to drink like at least 3 liters on your ride. So I agree.
Correct. So, let alone summer, anytime that you're riding, you do not realize how much you're dehydrating, how much you're losing water. You only realize it after you've, 4 or 5 hours out in the sun or in a slightly more cooler environment to the end of the day. And if you have a ride which is going to take you on a ride every morning, then you're going to have a pretty tough time if you're not drinking too much water.
One thing that we don't do enough is we try the fit of the helmet for a decently extended period of time. Color, shape, look, graphics is all for others to see. But if a awesomely gorgeous looking helmet, if it is not fitting you well, you're going to be uncomfortable through the ride. So I think the first and foremost thing that you need to look in a helmet is the fit. Go in for the snuggest possible, which is not giving you any kind of a pressure point, pain point, headache, claustrophobia, or anything like that. So the snuggest helmet, wear it. Just see to it that anywhere around it's not compressing you, it's not giving you pain, and wear it for 40 to 45 minutes. Sit at a place, in a comfortable place, and only then go ahead and buy it and go for a ride. Never buy an entire new set of gear and go for a long ride. The gear needs to be broken in, for the lack of a better word. You need to get comfortable with the gear, especially the helmet and the glove.
I mean, you have different helmets for different riding, right? I remember you calling me because you wanted a particular motocross helmet because you were doing like off-road riding. What's your go-to preference for when you're doing, a ride that will include a little bit of off-roading, but also road work and all that, and you can only take one helmet. So what's the helmet that you would take?
There are just a couple of helmets, high-end couple of helmets. One is a Arai XD4, and the other comparable helmet to that is the Shui Hornet X2. I think that's what I have, the Hornet X2, and that has like a peak. So it's a combination of off-road and a road helmet. It's quiet and comfortable like a road helmet. It has a peak for the sun or the roost or whatever. So that's what I use most of the time. I used to have just a road helmet, which worked for years. You don't need a particular helmet as far as I'm concerned to do something unless you're racing. Then you need a proper helmet.
But I thought the same thing, and then one day, because see, again, I think I'm a bit of a skeptic generally in life, and sometimes that doesn't serve me so well, right? Because when I look at all these things, I'm like, oh, that's a marketing gimmick. And then so I went off on a ride from Bombay to Bangalore, and I wore, and it was like not really summer, but kind of like autumn or something like that, but pretty sunny. And I was wearing my Arai, which is a very comfortable helmet, excellent, except that in the afternoon, whenever the sun was the sun was right in my eyes. I didn't have a visor, and it didn't have one of those fancy things where you could, bring the goggles down or whatever, that visor down, the darkened visor. And then I realized that these things are not marketing gimmicks, because I literally had to stop because the sun was straight in my eyes, and I had to wait for an hour at some shop having tea until
before the Hornet, I used to have a road helmet, which was, so I used to carry 2 visors. I used to have a dark visor as well as so at night I would change to the light visor, and during the day I'd have a dark visor. Then I got a helmet with one of those you're talking about, the internal darker visors. Then after that I got this, which has a visor. So after that I don't even need to wear dark glasses. Actually, I don't even wear dark glasses while riding during the day. It just seems to cut a lot of the glare from the sun. So I'm very happy with that kind of a helmet. For the riding I do. But you can't use that to race, obviously. To race or go very fast. You can't do that.
But just to give people who are watching this a very quick overview, what percentage of, so let's say I've spent 10 lakh on a bike, what percentage should I expect to spend on the gear?
I don't think it is. I think it's bike agnostic. I think a basic decent amount of gear is going to cost you anywhere from 60 to 110,000.
So it doesn't matter where you're riding. Essentially, what you're riding, whether you're riding a BMW R1200 GS or whatever it is, or you're riding a Hero Honda for that matter, right? You should be actually wearing all this gear. So, but to think that a motorcycle actually costs 55,000, then you're going to spend 60,000 on gears so that brings me to my absolute final question. I promise we will hang up after this. Is that for somebody like that who's on a budget, on a CD100 or something that he's bought? I don't even know if that bike's available anymore. But if he's bought a 55,000 rupee bike, what are the 2 or 3 critical elements that he must not compromise on, and what should he get for himself?
I think, again, helmet, like Shane said at the start of the session, helmet to the best of your ability, a jacket, a decent set of gloves, and if you can squeeze in even the most basic riding pant and riding boots.
All right, thanks so much for joining us. We actually managed to pull it off. Very professional looking production today, because I'm getting the hang of how to use some of these graphics and stuff like that. We're only going to get better. And this will be available once it's post-produced on YouTube also, in case all your buddies want to check it out. All the 2 people, I can see 2 people are watching this broadcast. That must be my mom and Shane's family. But anyway, so thanks so much. So we'll continue this next week and pick up. So one thing we're planning to do is just do ownership experiences of bikes. So maybe we'll come back for the Tiger 800 that you've got, and the Tiger 900 is just it's arriving at our shows hopefully soon. So once it does, maybe we can talk about the whole different versions of Tigers and what they've done and why it's such a legendary bike and all that. Although of course it's far inferior to the Africa Twin, we all know that. But that's all right. Okay, bye. See you.
All right. Okay, bye. Bye, Vivek.